Well, good morning, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be carrying on our journey down the Wiset Road. I'm just at the junction with Soi Yuan, where we left off on the last Wiset Road video, and today we're going to be carrying on with the topic talking about cost of living, as I was doing on yesterday's video that I filmed in Kamalar, and we're also going to touch on the subject of scams. So let's get into walking down this road. A little super cheap supermarket over there. There's actually two along this road, so there's one a little bit further down. And as I've said before, it's always handy to have these convenience stores. So now we're going towards what many would call the main area of Rawai and Rawai Beach. At the bottom of this soi is the very well known fish market, and of course we will be taking a look at that on a separate video. That's a fairly new place, I've not seen that before. They specialise in barbecue chicken. The Thais do like their barbecue chicken. There's European and Mexican food in there as well, and right next door is a bar. So if you're after an area with more laid back bars, then up to now, as you've seen on the Rawai series, there are a lot of these type bars where you're going to be able to go in and have a laid back drink, maybe talk to some young ladies that are in the bars working as hostesses. But carrying on from yesterday's video, where I was talking about cost of living, I mentioned about my food costs, my daily food costs. But I didn't really touch on anything else. And of course I do have other costs living out here, not just food costs. I tend to use the Honda Wave, the backup bike from our business, a lot. And of course I have to put petrol in that, and on average I sort of spend about 60 to 80 baht a day in petrol, because obviously I do quite a lot of riding around. To come here today from where I live is almost an hour away, because I live in Thailand, even though our business is only just down the road in Shillong. So I've come from home and I've put 60 bahts worth of petrol in the bike this morning, because it was not empty but near enough, and that will take me for a couple of days, maybe a day and a half. It really depends on how much I'm using the bike. So of course you've got costs of running a vehicle, whether it's a scooter. By far scooters are the most economical way of getting around, but I understand not everyone has the applicable license, and obviously if you're coming out here long term, then I would suggest you go and take a Thai driving license, whether it be a car license or a scooter license. They are very easy to do yourself. You do not need an agent. There are agents of course that will help you with the paperwork, but there's not that much really that you need. But I suggest you do it yourself, because it'll work out a lot cheaper. I think the actual driving test is about 220 baht. I have done a video on this where I changed my UK license over into Thai license, and because I'd already got one I only had to do a very basic reactions test. If you've already got a UK license and you want to change it over onto a Thai license, go down and see them, have a chat with them, and they might be able to do it without having to do the whole test. But I will say this, if you cannot pass a Thai driving test, then really you shouldn't be on the road, because I'm not kidding you now, it is so basic, anybody with half a brain is going to be able to pass the driving test over here, and that will then make you legal wise as regards any insurance that you may have, and also legal to be on the road. If you don't have the right documents, and after 3 months of living here, some licenses, even though you've got a full European license or a foreign license, they expire after 3 months. The government here like foreigners, if they're living here, to take their own Thai driving test. So a little tip for you there, try and get that done, because eases the way should you have an accident. It's easier to show. A Thai license, insurance and everything is no problem. This is a subject I will talk about on another video in more detail, but not on this one, because I want to do a little bit more about the cost of living. And I never mentioned the cost of things like washing powders and washing liquids and toilet rolls and just general day-to-day items that you will need, deodorants, etc., whatever you need, hair products and so on. These normally, me and Nat, we normally go to the very big super cheap twice a month, and on average we spend about 1,500 each visit. And that will cover everything from obviously washing liquids and conditioners, toilet rolls, bleaches, most household items. And also we have Shadow, and we also buy dog biscuits in amongst that, and obviously dog treats, etc. Petrol station here in Rawai. This is, I believe, the only one around here. No, there's actually one on the other road as well on that video. So there's 2 petrol stations here in Rawai. So that we normally spend, say, 3,000 baht a month on those type items. So that will give you an idea. Obviously, if you're over here single, you may not spend anywhere near that. And super cheap is pretty good, as I've mentioned, for general products. They're not expensive. They sell a good range, and they normally work out at a reasonable price. Obviously, there are other supermarkets, but they all vary in price. Nice big DIY store there. You've got a few jobs to do on your room. You might have a leaky shower or tap or something. They're quite good, Mr. DIY. They're not the greatest of quality items, but they get you by, especially if it's a rented room and you don't really want to spend too much. Sometimes you find that the owners are not really interested in maintaining the room. All they're interested in is the rent, of course. So if you rent somewhere and it is on the cheaper end of the scale, you may have to do a few odd jobs yourself if you want to get them done. Because what normally happens is the landlords will just keep putting it off, and they won't get done, or they'll take a long time to get done. And even when they get fixed, they tend to use the cheapest they can get hold of, cheapest taps or shower fittings or whatever it is. And within a few months they're back to the same problem again. So that's again something to bear in mind when you're renting a room. You know, if you're paying cheap for the room, as the saying goes, you get what you pay for. So bear that in mind. Let me just move away from that noise there from them digging up the concrete. Little place to stay there, and they've also got a small restaurant. These are the type places you can hunt out, because normally they offer reasonable prices, not too expensive. Now, when I mentioned about food yesterday on the Kamalar video, I was only talking about Thai food. So, of course, me and Nat, we eat a lot of Thai dishes, which helps keep the cost down, because if you're going to eat a lot of imported goods, obviously that is going to be more expensive. Whether you eat it at your accommodation or whether you go out to a restaurant place there, hiring bikes, 400 baht a day. This seems the average. It's going to cost you more, basically, imported goods, because they're more expensive to buy. So just bear that in mind. It's always good if you're coming over and staying in Thailand long term to eat Thai food. Now, some of the Thai food, as I mentioned before, it can be a little bit spicy. Certainly for Westerners' palates. Not everybody can eat the really spicy stuff, but you just have to hunt out the restaurants that will do it either not so spicy or not spicy at all, because there's quite a few restaurants actually that me and Nat use that don't spice the food, and they have the dishes on the table that you can add yourself, which I really like, because then you can just tweak it to your own palate. Whereas some restaurants, the ones who put the spice in, sometimes they just put too much, and obviously you can't take it away once it's in there. So it's a good idea to hunt these restaurants out, and I will be showing you some of these restaurants over time. In the coming months and weeks, we're going to be covering restaurants and give you an idea of places to check out. If you're on holiday, Phuket Seashell Museum, it's closed down here, but they have got one in Krabi. Just a quick point. If you are coming here on holiday, then obviously you're going to be in the tourist areas, and you hunt around for the different restaurants that suit your palate. But if you're coming over here and living here long term, then it really comes down to your budget. But I don't recommend staying in the tourist areas, because personally, this is my personal opinion, I don't find the Thai food as good generally in the tourist areas as the non-tourist areas. And this is because a lot of the people that work in these areas think, well, they're only tourists, they don't really know what the food tastes like. And some, not all, some restaurants don't always take the care they should when they're making the food. This is just something that I found out over the years, and just my personal opinions. People may disagree with me, and that's fine. That isn't to say there aren't some really good restaurants in the tourist areas, because there are. I can give you an example. Sugar and Spice in Qatar is an excellent restaurant, and I've eaten there many times, and that's in a tourist area. But that's in the minority. There's a lot worse restaurants in Qatar than there are good ones, so it pays to hunt around. In tourist areas you get that sort of, I guess, mentality is the word that I'm going to use. The owners have the mentality of, oh well, they're tourists, they don't really know what Thai food tastes like, or good Thai food. Now Nat is a very fussy person when it comes to Thai food, which is a good thing, it's not a bad thing. What you got on the grill here? Is it bananas? Yeah, it is. Bananas. Cooking up some bananas. Swaddy Cap, good morning. Ooh, look nice. She's very fussy when it comes to her Thai food, and she straight away will look at me if it's no good, and I just know that it's not how it's supposed to be. And obviously, having a Thai wife, you get a bit more of an insight into Thai food. And generally I've found in the more touristy areas it's harder to find good quality Thai food, and when you do find good quality Thai food, it's a little bit on the pricey side compared to non-tourist areas or less touristy areas. It's not 100% rule, of course, but it's just something that I've noticed over the years of living here, that I tend to stay away from the tourist areas because of cost. Obviously you're going to pay more in the tourist areas because things are priced more expensively, and sometimes you just don't get the quality there, unfortunately. So that can make a big difference to your budget. If you're on a tighter budget, some of your costs of living, try to stay away from the touristy areas because you'll spend more. I noticed a new place being built over there, a spa. It looks quite a nice place. It's not open yet, I don't think, they're just finishing it off. So yes, that's one of the things that will add to your cost of living, of course. As we mentioned about renting somewhere yesterday, the prices on rent will vary drastically depending on where you're staying and the sort of quality of room that you want. Do you want it with just a fan or air conditioning? Do you want a lounge area as well as a bedroom area? You have to work out how much time you're going to be spending in your accommodation, really. If you're going to spend a lot of time there, then you might want something a little bit more comfortable. But if you're out all the time, then you only need somewhere to sleep. So these are the things you have to look at when you come over here. So let's now just start and touch on what a lot of people are talking about is scams. According to social media at the moment, Thailand is full of scams, and I personally disagree with this, and I have done for quite some time, because it seems like a lot of content creators use the word scam out of context, basically to get views, to make their content look more than what it is, as I've mentioned before in previous videos. And I've always said that common sense in Thailand goes a long way, but unfortunately nowadays, with the dawn of social media, people seem to have lost their common sense, and they seem to be falling for things that aren't a scam. They're just bad common sense, or no common sense. If you're gonna rent a jet ski, for example, common sense tells you to walk around it before you take it out, take some video, pictures at the very minimum, but video is better, and always try and get the vendor on the video as well that you're renting from. That way you can't say that that video wasn't taken at his shop or whatever it may be. Any excuse that he may try and find, he can't find an excuse because you've covered all the bases. Just take your time, have a walk around, film any damage, let the vendor know that he's not dealing with some idiot, because if you just jump on it without looking at it, then some people will try to take advantage. Not all, but some people will. Unfortunately, that's the way of the world, and it's not just here in Thailand, that's anywhere you go. So use a little bit of common sense when it comes to things like that. If you get offered something that seems a really, really good deal, then a saying that I often think about in those situations, if it sounds too good to be true, then most of the time it is. And you should keep that in the back of your mind. If you get offered, I don't know, a watch, some jewellery, some clothing that just seems a little bit too good to be true, the deal that they're trying to do you, then normally it is. So, you know, it's just using a bit of common sense, which nowadays people don't seem to have. I don't know why, and they fall for the silliest of things. It's not difficult, and a lot of the so-called scams over here are not really scams, people just charging too much. If a business wants to charge too much, that isn't a scam. That's just a company charging too much, as I've said before. And you're free to shop around. And that is good advice. I would say, no matter what you're doing here, you should always shop around. Get a feel for the average price. If you're renting a bike, shop around. Get a few different quotes. If you're renting a car or buying a t-shirt, you're going to shop around. I'm just trying to watch the traffic here, because people don't tend to worry about pedestrians, especially on main roads, because there's no footpaths as such. You really need to do your homework. You know, a lot of people are lazy and they don't want to do anything. They go to one shop, they get a price, and then afterwards they find out they've been charged too much, and then they post on social media, it's a scam. It's not a scam, it's just a business charging too much, and you should be wise and use your common sense, shop around and get the best deals. And then you're going to avoid these so-called scams. As I've said before, as we go forward, I will be taking a look at these so-called scams in more detail and showing them for exactly what they are. And most scams here in Thailand, if you want to call them scams, can be easily avoided by common sense. So keep that in mind. Now we're coming into sort of near the main area now. So the beach is just down there, if you can call it a beach. It's not a terrible beach here in Rawai, but they do have a lot of boats more up, both longtail and speed boats, and you've got those cables running across the beach, which can trip you up if you're not watching where you're going. But this road actually isn't a bad road to take a look along, because there are a lot of small businesses along here, small restaurants, authentic smaller restaurants. There's also the smaller bars. You can see two over there, there's one behind me there. There's also a burger place that's, again, I don't think it's been open that long here, maybe 12 months. They're just opening up. It's quite early in the morning because the weather's getting really hot at the moment, and the Thai Met Office have give out a warning yesterday on the media excuse me, that Thailand is about to have a heat wave starting in the next week or so, running into March, and temperatures could go as high as 43 degrees, which is extremely warm to say the least. I mean, you can see the weather behind me, and the sun is just behind the camera there, beating down on me, and I am sweating. And it is earlier than yesterday when I did in Camelot. It's actually 10:30 in the morning, so I'm out a little bit earlier today because I've made a conscious effort to get out, because walking around in this heat is somewhat tiring to say the least, and difficult. So again, another smaller bar. So a great little road this, the Wiset Road, especially this section here, has got a lot to offer. You know, you're going to have to explore. Some of these restaurants only open in the afternoon and evening, some are only open in the morning. But there's plenty to choose from. And not only that, there's quite a lot of accommodation along this road as well. There's condominiums, there's villas, there's hotel accommodation. A lot of these businesses here have rooms above for rent as well. Some of them really nice. Some can be had for a bargain if you're over here for long term. You know, you can really pick up one or two bargains, especially if you're coming out of season and staying for 12 months. You can get it locked down at a lower rate than what you would do if you was coming here in high season, because they're going to want more, and then you're locked into that for 12 months on the contract. So it's definitely worth planning on when you pick your time to come out here. If you're thinking about coming out here to live, looks like a cafe there across the road for breakfast. If you're coming, good morning, Swaddy Cap, good morning. Nice guy there, very friendly. If you're coming out here to live, then I would recommend moving out here in the low season. And the reason why I say that is because obviously prices are going to be lower. If you're looking for accommodation for 12 months or more, the accommodation is going to be at its lowest point during the low season. So a lot of landlords will want to rent their places out in low season, of course. They don't want them empty. So you can negotiate the rate, a better rate in low season than what you could do in a high season. But once you've negotiated that rate, normally that'll be for 12 months. You know, if the landlord says, oh no, it's going to have to go up come December, you just say, okay, I not rent then. And then he'll change his mind, because he don't want to lose the low season rent. So it's an advantage to you to come out here out of high season. If you're looking at staying long term, if you're looking at staying a year, 2 years or more, best to move out here when the prices are at the lowest, and then things like accommodation you're going to get a better deal on, and that will go for the 12 months rather than just coming out here and the high season, paying the high season rate but paying it for 12 months. So that's not so good. So that's something to watch out for as well. So just at the bottom here, if you turn left, which we're not going to do today, but I'm going to do maybe on the next video or the one after that, I'm not quite sure, is the fish market. And Rawai is very famous for this fish market down here. A lot of people come. If you're into seafood, then this is the place to come. We always bring the mother-in-law down here when she comes to stay, because she likes a lot of seafood. Nat loves seafood. You can buy it fresh from the market, literally still alive in the tanks. Take it to one of the restaurants and they'll cook it to your liking. You just tell them how you want it cooked and they'll cook it to that. They charge you a small amount, but it's certainly not as much as if you was buying the actual fish and the dish directly from them. So that's something we're going to take a look at in the next coming videos. And then of course, just round this corner, I'm not going to walk much further, there is the main section of Rawai Beach, which we shall cover and take a look at that. So we're now getting through the Rawai district. I've nearly covered it all. There's only a few more videos to come. Yesterday saw me start the Camelot series, which is another great area to take a look at. If I had to say, let me just move out of here because there's people coming around here, the traffic and that. If I had to say, I would say I think that Rawai is a little bit cheaper than Camelot, because Camelot is a more touristy area, so you might find rentals a little bit more expensive, property rentals, than what you will in Rawai, because it's less in demand. But having said that, over the last few years Rawai has started to go up in price because of its popularity.